spelling analysis. Our first word is happy. I am so happy to do spelling analysis with you. Go ahead and say happy. We will say to spell hap-p. What will we say to spell? Hap-p. That's right. Let's sound it out together. Hap. Ap. The second syllable is p. P-e. Use a y, I, e. Go ahead and write hap-b, sounding it out as you write it. And help me to write it. Hap. A. P. E. What sound of y, I, e do you hear? That's right, it's the fourth sound. We'll put a 4 over it. Why did it say it's E sound? Y says E only in an unstressed syllable at the end of a multi-syllable word. Notice it's a multi-syllable word, and we know that hap is stressed. This is the unstressed syllable. Let's read it together. A-p-e, happy. The next word is cry. Oh no, I think I will cry. Go ahead and say cry. Let's sound it out together. Cry. K. This is a k, s, I. Use a y, I, e. Go ahead and write cry, sounding it out as you write it. And help me to write it. K, I. How will we mark it? We'll put a line over the I. Notice, y, I, e is saying it's long sound, I. And why is it saying it's long sound? Well, it's at the end of a one-syllable word. So when a one-syllable word ends with a single vowel y, it says I. The next word is city. That is a great view of the city. Go ahead and say city. How many syllables? 2. We will say to spell sit, e. What will we say to spell? Sit, e. Let's sound it out together. Sit. S. Use a k, s. I, t. The second syllable is e. E. Use a y, I, e. Go ahead and write sit, e, sounding it out as you write it. And help me to write it. Sit, s, I, t, e. How will we mark it? What sound of k, s do you hear? The second. And what sound of y, I, e do you hear? The fourth. All right, why did the C softens to s? C always softens to s when followed by an E, I, or Y. Notice there's an I, so it's making the C say s. And here we have y, I, e, saying its fourth sound E at the end of a multi-syllable word. And notice this syllable is unstressed. We know that sit is said clearly and it is said the loudest. So sit is stressed, this is unstressed. City. The next word is today. It is his birthday today. Go ahead and say today. How many syllables? 2. We will say to spell to-day. What will we say to spell? To-day. Let's sound it out. The first syllable is to. T-oo. Use an a-o-oo. Day. D-a. 2-letter A that you may use at the end of English words. Go ahead and write to-day, sounding it out as you write it. And help me to write it. The first syllable is to, t-oo. The second syllable is day, d-a. How will we mark it? We'll put 2 dots over the O. Why? A-o-oo said its broad sound, oo. And we'll underline the A. Let's read it. T-oo-d-a, today. Notice we often say today with a schwa sound. Any vowel may say a or I in an unstressed syllable or an unstressed word. The next word is yesterday. Yesterday we went to the zoo. Go ahead and say yesterday. How many syllables in yesterday? Hmm. 3. We will say to spell yes, day. What will we say to spell? Yes, day. Let's sound it out together. The first syllable is yes. S. Use a s. Z. The second syllable is Use the of her. Day. A. 2-letter A that you may use at the end of English words. Go ahead and write yes, day, sounding it out as you write it. Excellent. And now help me to write it. The first syllable is yes. S. The second syllable is The third syllable is day. A. And how do we mark it? Well, underline the and the A. Let's read it. A. Yesterday. Excellent. The next word is never. Never give up. Go ahead and say never. How many syllables? 2. We will say to spell nev-er. What will we say to spell? Nev-er. Let's sound it out together. The first syllable is nev. N-e-v. The second syllable is Use the of her. Go ahead and write nev-er, sounding it out as you write it. And now help me to write it. The first syllable is nev. N-e-v. The second syllable is How do we mark it? We'll underline the Let's read it. Never. Never. The next word is too. There is too much salt in that. Too. Go ahead and say too. Let's sound it out. T-oo. This is an oo. Go ahead and write too. And help me to write it. T-oo. How will we mark it? We'll underline the oo. Let's read it. T-oo. Too. The next word is slow. We will need to slow down. Slow. Go ahead and say slow. Let's sound it out. S-l-o. Use an ow-o. Go ahead and write slow, sounding it out as you write it. And help me to write it. Slow. S-l-o. How do we mark it? We'll underline the O. What sound of ow-o do you hear? The second, so we'll put a 2 over it. Let's read it. S-l-o. Slow. The next word is early. I got up early. Go ahead and say early. How many syllables? 2. We will say to spell early. What will we say to spell? Early. Let's sound it out. The first syllable is The second syllable is li. O-e. Use a y-i-i-e. Go ahead and write li, sounding it out as you write it. And now help me to write it. The first syllable is and the second syllable is li. O-e. How will we mark it? We'll underline the and what sound of y-i-i-e do we hear? That's right, the fourth. So we'll put a 4 over it. Notice Y is saying its E sound in an unstressed syllable at the end of a multi-syllable word. Let's read it. Early. Early. The next word is steady. I will need to study for the test. Study. Go ahead and say study. How many syllables in study? 2. We will say to spell stud-e. What will we say to spell? Stud-e. Let's sound it out together. The first syllable is stud. S-t-a-d. The second syllable is e. E. This is a y-i-i-e. Go ahead and write stud, E, sounding it out as you write it. And now help me to write it. The first syllable is stud. St, d. The second syllable is E. And how will we mark this E? We'll put a 4 over it. Why? It said its fourth sound. Yeah, I, E, stud E. And notice it said its fourth sound at the end of a multi-syllable word. Let's read it. D-E, study. Here, I'll just make that a little clearer for you. There you go. All right. The next word is guide. My GPS will guide me. Go ahead and say guide. Let's sound it out together. G. Do you notice this? It's a G spelled with 2 letters. I, D. Silent final E. Go ahead and write guide, sounding it out as you write it. And help me to write it. G, I, D. Silent final E. How will I mark it? I'll underline the G. Why do I have a silent final E in guide? The vowel said its long sound because of the E. Now, isn't this interesting? Many times we might wonder, why is there a U in guide? Why is it only one syllable? This is the multi-letter phonogram G, Gwa. And here it's saying G, G, I, D, guide. The next word is baby. The baby is so cute. Baby. Go ahead and say baby. How many syllables in baby? 2. We will say to spell baby. What will we say to spell? Baby. Let's sound it out together. Bay. B-A. B. B-E. This is a ya, I, E. Go ahead and write baby, sounding it out as you write it. And help me to write it. The first syllable is bay, B-A, B, B-E. How will we mark it? We'll put a line over the A. Why? A, E, O, U usually say their long sounds at the end of the syllable. And notice we have that fourth sound of Y again. I, E, baby. And there it is at the end of a multi-syllable word. Let's read it. B-A-B-E, baby. Once again, it only says its E sound in an unstressed syllable at the end of a multi-syllable word. But you'll see that that's the most common thing, for that last syllable to be unstressed. So you'll see this Y saying E at the end of multi-syllable words again and again and again. It's a very common spelling. The next word is kind. She is so kind. Go ahead and say kind. Let's sound it out together. K. This is a tall K. I, N, D. Go ahead and write kind, sounding it out as you write it. And help me to write it. K, I, N, D. And how will we mark it? We'll put a line over the I. Why did it say its long sound? I and O may say I and O before 2 consonants. And there it is. It's before 2 consonants saying its long sound I. K, I, N, D, kind. The next word is often. I often go to the store. Often. Go ahead and say often. We will say to spell off-ten. Now you might say often, but we will definitely say to spell off-ten. Got it? Let's sound it out together. The first syllable is off. Off. The second syllable is ten. T-e-n. Go ahead and write off-ten, sounding it out as you write it. And help me to say it. The first syllable is off. Off. The second syllable is ten. T-e-n. Let's read it. Oft-en. Often. Now, some of you might say often. I often do that. Some of you might say often, and you might have that T as silent. If you don't pronounce the T sound, you could double underline it to say that it's a silent T, and then you'd say to spell often. But be listening for it in people's speech. Some people clearly articulate it. The next word is noise. He is making a lot of noise with the saw. Noise. Go ahead and say noise. Let's sound it out together. N, oi. Oi that you may not use at the end of English words. Z. Use a s, z. Silent final E. Go ahead and write noise, sounding it out as you write it. And help me to write it. N, oi, z. Silent final E. How do we mark it? Well, underline the oi. What sound of z do you hear? The second. And why do we have a silent final E in noise? Notice, if we didn't have it, it would look like it was a plural word. But noise is a singular word. So it's there to keep a singular word that ends in S from looking plural. Great work analyzing these words today.
Combining the science of reading with the joy of learning. Learn more at essentials.logicoфenglish.com.